Hey guys, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here. And today, I did earlier a Breaches of the Week video, but I wanted to do this one very specifically because this revolves around the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And what we might be looking at is a potential constitutional crisis here in the making, not to mention a massive national security problem that we may be sitting on, and that is something that we have to address. Now, here's what's going on. A couple of weeks ago, and I've done videos on this before, but there are some new updates within the last 24 hours that really I think are going to start turning this up. Now, a couple of weeks ago, basically a law firm out of New York called Grubman, Shire, Meiselas, and Sachs basically got ransomed. They got hit by the REvil or ReEvil hacking group that is holding their information. Now, I'm just going to call them Grubman. The Grubman law firm here is basically the law firm to the stars. Everybody from Madonna to Lady Gaga to Elton John and Bono and on and on and on are using them. So they have a massive amount of sensitive data. Now, what happened here was that REvil understanding what they had, decided to make the ransom $21 million. Now, Alan Grubman, who is Alan Grubman of Grubman, Shire, etc., basically said, no, we are not going to deal with them. This is basically a terrorist act, and so we are working with the FBI. This past Thursday, a few days ago, REvil came out and basically said, well, we don't just have all of this information, we also have stuff on President Trump. And if you do not release or you do not pay the $21 million fine, which they then doubled to $42 million because it involved the president, basically they said, that they're going to dump everything this upcoming Thursday, like 5-6 days from now. That's a huge problem because also in their ransom note this past Thursday, a few days ago, they had literally addressed President Trump directly, saying if you want to maintain your presidency, you are definitely going to want to make sure that they are paying for this, because you don't want these documents to see the light of day. They're super damning and all of that. And so by virtue of that, the FBI came out and they classified this threat basically as a terrorism issue. So this is an act of terrorism because it is stolen data relating to the President of the United States. And by virtue of that, the REvil or REvil cyber gang pushed back and they published the first batch of emails, 169 in total, that involved President Trump in some way. So this obviously they were not a fan of this. And so REvil wrote, in terms of that dump as well as their classification, as terrorists, and I quote, "We read the position of the authorities. Declare this as an act of terrorism. Your position is your choice. This will not affect our work in any way. It's just that it can completely erase certain frames that we still observed. But now this is not that. Mr. Lawyer," which I assume is Grubman, Mr. Grubman, "says that Donald has never been their client. And he says that we are bluffing. Oh well. The first part, with the most harmless information, we will post here." Now, at the end of the ransom note, and I read the whole thing, there were links to 3 dark web downloads with basically a password to access them, and this, and I quote, "Oh yes, Donald, here is the first part of the data." And again, that is according to them. Now, these download links went to 169 emails, all of which that mentioned Donald Trump in one way or the other. Now, these were indeed harmless emails. Just looking through them and seeing some of these here, it looks like they just basically searched the information that they received for Trump and lumped these emails together in a file that basically is really not that damning to him. It's just that he is mentioned as proof that he is in some way, shape, or form involved with the Grubman law firm. Excuse me, I can't talk today. Now, here's what's going on, though, with this, because I think this is potentially a very serious issue, because this is either going to be, one, very seriously damning or a whole lot of nothing. And we're going to see this because the way it's looking right now is that the Grubman law firm is not going to pay this. But let's game out some of the implications here that I think a lot of the media isn't talking about and what a lot of this is missing. Now, my initial reporting, a lot of this came from Forbes, but I also looked up multiple articles on this, even went to the dark web looking for this, all that kind of stuff to just read these emails and everything. And let's game out these implications because nobody else is doing this, and I think this is beyond important because I think we're sitting on something that could be potentially damaging in multiple ways to the country, excuse me. Now, if President Trump was not a client of Grubman, then what Grubman may have on Trump is things like email correspondence, confidential documents like non-disclosure agreements, and more. If President Trump was engaged with a Grubman client or clients, and since a ton of celebrities use the Grubman law firm, this is a very real possibility. Now, if President Trump was a client of Grubman, although Grubman claims that he was not, which is possible, though from what I understand, Michael Cohen was his lawyer prior to his conviction about like a year or two ago or so. And so it's very possible he's not. But if he was, then Grubman is going to have even more information on President Trump. Now, love him or hate him, he is the president of the United States, which means that the leader of the free world is literally being held for ransom by an unknown group of cyber criminals. And the national security implications of this are quite frankly profound. If these attackers have something so damning on President Trump that it affects his judgment in this situation, then do we have a constitutional crisis on our hands? Would the president need to temporarily abdicate his authority to Vice President Pence while he is under threat? That's what we have going on here. Now, this president's mission, or any president's mission, should be to put the country's needs first and the country's priorities first before his or her own. And in a case where that is impossible due to having sensitive data held hostage, how do we handle this? This is rather unprecedented in U.S. history, but we literally have a group addressing the president directly, saying we have horribly damning information on you, and if you want to keep your job in the next election, you better pay us or we're going to destroy you. We're going to destroy you with data. That is a terrifying prospect for any leader of any world power anywhere. But how does a government like this handle that? What is the safest thing to do? The person that could possibly be under extreme duress, thinking, oh my God, it's over for me, if this gets released. If he is thinking that, then he might be inclined to pay them, get away with it, whatever, when maybe that's not the right position to take. And I'm not saying what the right position is. I typically counsel against paying individuals like this because once they have the data, as Alan Grubman himself said, there's no reason why they couldn't just, get the money and then dump it anyway. So we'll see what happens with this. But I think that's something that we really need to explore, and we really need to have a conversation about it because this situation that I feel is being horribly underreported in the media. I don't care what media you're talking about, from CNN to Fox News to MSNBC. Nobody is really talking about this except in article form. And even then, I have to go looking for these articles. This is a problem. This is a problem that we need to address. This is a problem we need to face. But quite frankly, I don't necessarily know if President Trump would be willing to abdicate his power temporarily while this situation is fixed, or simply abdicate his power in decisions on this exact thing to his vice president. We have to figure this out, and I think this is really important because I have a feeling this is not going to be the only time that we are going to see a president held hostage by his data. And I think that's something that should worry all of us moving forward in the future, no matter what aisle on the political spectrum you're on. And so that is your second news of the day, if you will, because I did my breaches earlier. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me on YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.